恭敬大德圣听，为师大为基界众生，经转妙法轮，教导我如何疗伤脱死离苦得乐。速战无胜。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanbuto che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, I'm mp4. Welcome back. This is lecture number 137. Okay, where's my slides? Okay, so today we have a few questions that are outstanding. One is about dedication and transference of merit. It's the same thing. Then one question is about right view. How do we develop right view? Was there another question? Did I miss out any questions? I think that was it, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so and okay, just give me one more. And while you all are waiting for me to get my slides, because I'm trying to move my okay, got it. Okay, while I'm trying to get my slides ready. If anyone is familiar with the Earth Store Sutra, because this pertains to our answer for our question today, there's a section on the Earth Store Sutra that speaks about how uh, I think it's to do with transference. If the 1/7 share goes to the recipient and 6/7 comes back to the donor, that
Chapter
section.
6.
Chapter 6.
Chapter 6.
Okay. All right. If you
Yes.
do you have it with you, Sui Ling?
Wait.
No. Okay, it's all right. Throughout the lecture later, if you don't mind, if I don't have how you say, I will probably need to refer to it. Okay, but for now, let's go back to our topic on loving kindness. Okay, so I decided to share this. This is one of the Buddha's utterances. He said, I visited all quarters with my mind, nor found I any dearer than myself. Self is likewise to every other dear who loves himself. Self is likewise to every other dear. I'm not sure how to say that with the right. Anyway, who loves himself will never harm another. So there are different variations of where this is mentioned. There are different short sutras that the Buddha talks about. To all of us, the person we hold most dear is ourselves. That's why loving kindness starts with the self. And then the last sentence says, who loves himself will never harm another. Okay. Anyone understand or does not understand that? Why would someone who really cares for them, who really cares for themselves, will never harm another person? That doesn't seem very logical on the surface. What has one got to do with the other, right? Anyone? Okay, you all can think about it, and then if I forget to mention this later, please remind me. But I want you all to just think about it for a moment. Okay, all right. So today we are going to revisit the text called the Visuddhimagga. In English, it's known as the Path of Purification. It's a Theravada text. Okay, but if you are interested to get to the Pure Land, that's one text that you should investigate, because it's the path of purification, meaning you make yourself pure, and then that's one of the ways to get to the Pure Land. Okay, so it says, first of all, it should be developed only towards oneself. Doing it repeatedly, thus may I be happy and free from suffering. Or there's an alternate phrase. It says, may I keep myself free from enmity, affliction, and anxiety, and live happily. So we've done all that. We've spent many weeks about how to understanding the practice of loving kindness for oneself. And then last week, we started exploring how we can expand it to others. Okay, all right. So now, exactly where we are, it says, but when one begins meaning begins to expand it to expand the practice of loving kindness to encompass people. It says one must know that some persons are of the wrong sort at the very beginning. Very beginning means the beginning of the practice. And that loving kindness should be developed towards certain kinds of persons and not towards certain other kinds at first. So we have to practice wisdom. We have to be a bit indiscriminate. We have to be, is indiscriminate the right word? We have to discriminate. Okay, that I know I'm using it right. We have to discriminate at first how or who we include in our practice of loving kindness, because we are learning. Right? So you want to learn the right way. So what is the right way or wrong way? It says, loving kindness should not be developed at first towards the following four kinds of persons. Number one, antipathic person. Antipathic person just means someone you don't like, you know. Number two, the opposite, a very dearly loved friend. Number three, a neutral person, someone who you don't know really, you know, like someone from work, from a different department, different floor, you might see once a week. Yeah. And number four, hostile person. And actually there's a 5 and 6. Number 5 is someone from the opposite sex. And number 6 is towards a dead person, someone who's no longer alive, which is very interesting. Okay. Says, what is the reason why it should not be developed at first towards an antipathic person and the others? Okay, so the reasons are antipathic person in a dear one's place is fatiguing. So trying to practice loving kindness for someone you don't like before you learn how to develop loving kindness for others takes a lot of work. Number two, to put a very dearly loved friend in a neutral person's place is fatiguing. Okay. And if the slightest mischance befalls the friend, the person will feel like weeping. So again, before you are solid in your practice, you don't want to include people who you already really care for. To put a neutral person in a respected one's or dear one's place is fatiguing as well. Right? And then finally it says, anger springs up in him if he recollects a hostile person. So instead of you're learning how to practice loving kindness, and you think of someone who say wants to harm your family, instantly anger arises, and then all your loving kindness goes out the window. Yeah. So don't start there. Okay. Before you develop, before you get the practice right, avoid these 4 kinds of people. Okay. And then if one develops it specifically towards the opposite sex, lust inspired by that person springs up in him. So this is for that category of people. And it gives a very interesting anecdote or example. I'm not sure if it's a true story, but it's from the commentary. It says, as an elder supported by family was asked, an elder meaning a monk. So a friend's son asked the monk, said, Venerable Sir, towards whom should loving kindness be developed? And the elder went told him, towards a person one loves, without maybe elaborating. So he started practicing loving kindness on his own wife, this young man. And it says, through developing loving kindness towards her, he was fighting against the wall all night. Okay, you can interpret that however you want. It says that is why it should not be developed specifically towards the opposite sex. Okay, all right. So loving kindness not for someone of the opposite sex where lust may arise. Okay. It says, but if he develops it towards a dead person, he reaches neither absorption nor excess. This absorption nor excess refers to concentration. For example, if you recite the Buddha's name, or say you count your breathing, you do it long enough meaning for say days and weeks and months and years, or long enough meaning in that single sitting you are able to sit peacefully and recite or count your breathing, you will come to a point where you realize that your mind is very, very quiet, and that no matter what happens, you don't get distracted. That is known as, let me say, excess concentration. Is it absorption? Either one is the one that's not the deep concentration yet. Then which is the deep concentration? I think it's absorption. Absorption is the deep concentration. Excess is the one before. Yeah. And then if you can continue that more and more, if your samadhi or your concentration is good, and things like forgetting to make a phone call, forgetting to cook dinner or lunch, or all those things that responsibilities in life, even if you think of it, they don't pull you out of what you're doing. They have no hold on you. Then your chances are good that you can develop that into absorption, concentration, or the dhyanas, on the jhanas. Okay. So it says a young bhikkhu, it seems, has started developing loving kindness inspired by his teacher. His loving kindness made no headway at all. So apparently, this is not very clear, but the commentaries make it more clear. Apparently, this young monk was used to entering dhyana by through the practice of loving kindness with his teacher as his focus. But one day he found that it couldn't work anymore. So he went to another senior monk and said, "Venerable sir, I'm quite familiar with attaining jhana or dhyana through loving kindness, and yet I cannot attain it. What is the matter?" So he finds that it doesn't work anymore. So this other monk said, "Seek the sign, friend." So what does the sign mean? The sign means that the object of your concentration. So he did, and the object of his concentration was his teacher. And then he found out that his teacher had died. So then he changed the object of his, or the sign of his meditation. He developed loving kindness for someone else. And by that, he could attain dhyana. Yeah. Don't ask me how this works or doesn't work. I honestly am totally lost. I don't even have a guess to try to answer. That's how lost I am in trying to explain this. Yeah. Okay. All right. Then Wisumi Maga says, that is why first you pervade yourself with loving kindness. Then after that, in order to proceed easily, you can recollect such gifts. It doesn't explain what the gifts are. It only says kind words, inspire love and endearment, such virtue, learning, etc., as inspire respect and reverence met with a teacher or his equivalent or preceptor or his equivalent, developing loving kindness towards him in the way beginning, may this good man be happy or this good woman be happy and free from suffering. With such a person, of course, he attains absorption. Okay, what does this mean? It means that your first object of your where you radiate loving kindness to should be someone like a teacher to you. So for us, is the person that comes up would be Shufu. If you have taken refuge with Shufu, it could be the Buddha, for example, someone you have taken refuge in, or someone you have those kind of connection with, like someone that inspires love and endearment in you, but in a wholesome way. Someone that embodies virtue, learning, respect, and reverence. That is a good person to start with. Yeah. So in the first sentence, it says you can recollect such gifts. What gifts? Okay, these gifts are very, very familiar to what is known as the 4 means of attraction that a bodhisattva uses. So what are the 4 gifts? In this case, it is generosity, speaking with kind words, doing kind deeds, and treating people with equality. That means you treat everyone the same. You don't practice favoritism. So these are the 4, someone who can practice this is someone who is a good candidate for your loving kindness. All right. And it is very, very similar to the 4 means of attraction, which is, let me see if I can remember from memory. Generosity, I think also kind words, and then I think also good deeds, and finally, instead of treating people with equality, it is you do as you say, to that effect. Yeah, you're not a hypocrite. Whatever you say or you teach, you also practice, which comes, I guess, from the same principle. Yeah. Okay. Then it says, but if this practitioner does not rest content with just that much and wants to break down the barriers, that means you want to do even more. Say he should next, after that, develop loving kindness towards, number 1, a very dear love friend. Okay, so this is when you're ready. Number 2, a neutral person as a very dearly loved friend. So you see a neutral person in that respect. And then you are able to see a hostile person as a neutral person. So even a hostile person does not make increase your unwholesome tendencies anymore. It says, and while he does so, he should make his mind malleable and wieldy in each instance before passing on to the next. This just means that with every object of loving kindness that you are practicing on, you do it until your mind is fully under control. Yeah, that means distractions don't distract you anymore. Your mind is able to rest peacefully. It's no longer moving from thought to thought, but able to just abide in loving kindness. That's what it means. Yeah, and also you don't find yourself eager, like um, waiting. Oh, I'm going to move my loving kindness to this person and see what happens. You don't have that kind of uh, false thoughts. Yeah, interfering thoughts. Okay, let me see, what is this. Okay, when it comes to a hostile person, it says, but if he has no enemy, or if he is of the type of a great man who does not perceive another as an enemy, even when the others does him harm, he should not interest himself as follows. Now that my consciousness of loving kindness has become wieldy towards a neutral person, I shall apply it to a hostile one. In other words, if you don't have anyone you consider as your enemy, as a hostile person, then just forget about this part. Okay. Yeah, I should have deleted this slide because I think it's superfluous. But you get the idea. Okay, let me see. What's the time? Time is, I have okay, maybe I'll go to questions because the next slides that I have comes from a different section. Okay, but let me ask Sriling. Sriling, did you find the passage?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What does it
Yes.
say about the 1.6 and the 6.7?
Okay. Shall I read out the whole thing? Shall I read out the whole paragraph or what?
Is it very
Okay, then maybe I would just say that therefore, elder, if the living beings of Jampu Vipa make vegetarian meals, the offering to the Buddha and Sangha, the dead one will receive 1/7 of the merit, and 6 parts, and means the other 6/7 will go to the person who created the merit for the deceased.
okay.
Is that what you want to know?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the deceased will receive 1/7 of the merit. Okay, yes, thank you very much. Okay, so let's talk a bit about transference of merit then, dedication of merit, because that has been, that was asked a few weeks ago and I have not answered. Oh, wait, hold on. In the beginning of today's slides, let me go back to, how do I jump slides? I'm just going to quickly scroll back. Okay, here. Who loves himself will never harm another. Does anyone want to volunteer? Why? Does it make sense?
Maybe I can try.
Yes, please.
That means that if you read, that means you will treat the other person or the other living being, or whatever, you will as if it was your own life. So like say taking vegetarian food and not eating of animals. That means you see the animals as your own parents, or as much as you will love your own parents or yourself. So how can you eat the animal's flesh?
Okay.
Something like that.
All right, very good. That's how bodhisattvas see living beings, yeah, as their family. Any others? No, you can type in, if you don't want to mention your name, you can type in and, okay, anyway, this is what I think. When you harm someone or even have thoughts of hate or dislike or animosity against someone, it's very damaging to yourself in your mind. Yeah, because those thoughts are very damaging. So it's almost like every thought of hatred for someone else is like ingesting poison, because it's kind of true. You do harm yourself, even though it's just thoughts, not to mention to the extent of actually harming someone. The state of mind of someone who can harm someone else, you can tell that their mind is not at peace at all. Yeah, they are so caught up in their thoughts that they don't even realize they are suffering. So someone who really cares for themselves, first of all, will not put themselves under that kind of mental torture, because you can see in others. Number two, every intentional thought that you have that's filled with hatred results in future karma. In other words, future retribution that you have to undergo. And who creates this? Only yourself. So for someone who really cares about themselves, they will never subject themselves to such deeds. Okay, that's what I think. Yeah, if that helps anyone think of something else, please unmute your mic and we can talk about it. Okay. And then it helps if you treat everyone as a family member, then you never have to worry about this at all. So from the worst, one of the ways to put it into practice is like what Sui Ling said, you walk the Bodhisattva path and you see everyone as a dear loved one. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now coming to transference or dedication. Okay, Ron, you want to ask your question now? Okay. Before Ron asks his question, is Ron there?
Yeah, I'm here for sure.
Okay, so Melinda also has a question. Melinda's question is, what is the portion if transfer merit to a live person? Is it the same as transfer merit to deceased people? Yeah, this is also Ron, kind of Ron's question. Ron, would you like to ask your question?
Yes. So I've been doing meal offerings, in habit since I heard about giving, practicing giving, and then I thought about transferring merit. When I thought about the transferring of merit to all the relatives and ancestors, I thought, well, since we can't see the since we can't see merit, how do we know like how much do they use or how much do they get, for each of these people, each of these goals, or is it totally thought of in a different way, as intended in the Buddha Dharma? So that's my question. Is I have a lot of unknowns about transferring merit.
Okay. So let me ask a question then. What is transference of merit? Is transference of merit, okay, so Ron initially, when he asked this question before it was you all came online, Ron's question was, now that he knows the difference between merit and blessings. Okay, Ron, I'm going to mute you, Ron. Okay. So Ron started that way. He said, now that I know the difference between merit and blessings, because when you transfer, you usually transfer merit, not blessings. So let's start there. All right. The difference between merit and blessings, they come from the same deed. Okay. They come from the same, like say you, in the Assault Sutra, it says, you, even if it's a small deed, you provide a grain of rice to a bird. You can have two people doing the same deed, but it is the intention that makes it either meritorious or blessings. If the person just wants for himself benefits, then it becomes blessings. But if there is right intention behind it, right intention means harmlessness. That means you do it with a heart of loving kindness. You do it with a heart of renunciation. That means the reason that you do it is so that you can lessen your attachments and your desires. And there might be one more. Yeah. And that's where dedication or merit comes in. Then it becomes merit. And merit helps you get out of birth and death. Whereas blessings just gives you a better life in your next life if the conditions are right, or in future lives, but it doesn't help you get out of birth and death. Okay, so there's a difference between merit and blessings. Now, what is dedication of merit? Is it a magical thing that, oh, I do something good and then I dedicate it to all living beings, or to this particular person, or to my deceased ones? Is it a magical thing like that? Okay, there's another question. Can you transfer merit but one suffers on behalf of that living person? Yes, no. Yeah, I'll come to that, Isabella. Thank you. So is transference of merit some magical thing? The Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are transferring merit to us all the time. Why are we still all here?
It's not magical, but you create, when you transfer merit, you create the causes. It's like a bank account. It slowly adds up every day when you transfer the merit. And then because of the mind is it's pure in wanting to transfer the merit. So the mind is everything, you see. So the good intention will set the seed.
Good intention, and it sets the seed. So nothing is happening but more internally for the person doing the transference? Is that correct?
I think for both, for the person who does the transference and the merit that has been transferred, although it's not magic, but it's like loving kindness. It's something that so there will be an effect there.
Okay. Very good. Anyone else? Because, you think about it, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, if they can transfer merit and we can all receive the merit, but at the same time, if you look at the way the world is, I think there are a lot of people who really need the merit if it works that way, right? If it can be transferred, like say how money can be transferred in a bank account, right? So if you look at it from that point of view, does transference of merit work in that way? I can give my portion of my merit to someone else and they can actually receive it. So the answer is kind of yes and no. Okay, I know this is a difficult topic. The answer is kind of yes or no. Okay, why? Because there are some who can receive merit, but not directly. Okay, they're not directly. But there are beings who can receive merit and there are beings who cannot. Actually, there's a sutra. I should have brought up this sutra, but I don't have it. Someone asked the Buddha, says, who can receive merit and who cannot? And the Buddha said, only hungry ghosts can receive merit. That's why in the Untitled Sutra, it talks about departed relatives. The Buddha says only hungry ghosts can receive your the merit of your good deeds, but it's not something that you do to them immediately, directly. For example, in the Ulambana Sutta or Sutra, Mahamoggallana, upon his awakening, he became an arhat. He looked for his father. The father was in heaven, so he said, "Okay, my father doesn't need my help." So he looked for his mother, and the mother was born as a hungry ghost. And so he tried. Mahamoggallana has had the foremost of spiritual powers among all the Buddha's disciples. He was number one. So he made a bowl of rice appear in his hand, and he gave it to his mom. And then the mom, in a very typical fashion of a hungry ghost, okay, how you get to be a hungry ghost? Because you're very, very selfish. You only think of yourself and no one else. So what did the mother do? The hungry ghost snatched the bowl of food away from Mahamoggallana. You know, like how sometimes when you feed an animal, although you're feeding them, they are afraid that you might not. Kind of like that. They snatch it away from you. And that's what she did. And the next thing that she did was she quickly covered up the bowl of rice so no one else could see, so that no one could take it from her, or she didn't have to share whatever it was. It's a very miserable existence, that state of mind. And when she tried to eat the food, it turned into hot coals in the mouth. It burned her instead. So Mahamoggallana went to the Buddha and cried to the Buddha and explained to the Buddha what happened. And then the Buddha says, because of your mother's karma, it's very, very hard to reach those people. And he says, only if you do this can it reach your mom. Says you make an offering to the combined Sangha. That's why Ulambana, the wording is such that the combined Sangha, they will come down from the mountains. Those who have been practicing meditation, they come down, they assemble, and they receive the offerings. It says only then. He says, the Buddha said, even if you offer it to me, it will not help your mom. But if you offer to the assembled Sangha, then it will help. Okay, so how does it work? There is a few conditions in play here, because everything comes back to cause and effect. When this question about how do we develop right view involves learning about karma or cause and effect. So what is the cause and effect behind the behind transference or dedication of merit? At this level, okay, there are a few levels. So at this level, for hungry ghosts, their karma is such, and I'll be sharing stories in the other WhatsApp group about those hungry ghosts. So for those of you who have been reading, this should be clear. Because we cannot offer directly to hungry ghosts, first we have to make an offering to the Sangha or people of virtue. So it's usually the Sangha. Why? Okay, why is this? Why can't we just make an offering to anyone, say your neighbor, and dedicate it to your relatives or to hungry ghosts? You know, why won't that work? Because the second condition for them to receive the merit is that they have to rejoice in your offering. If they don't rejoice, then they don't get anything. So that's why, like in Ulambana Sutra, it had to take all the Sangha to assemble. So you have to imagine the state or the mind of a hungry ghost. The fact that you are born as a hungry ghost, it means that your mind is so caught up in emotions. They are just in a loop of it's like a nightmare in a loop, like in depression. They can't break themselves out, and you cannot break through to them. It is very, very hard. If you ever dealt with people who have mental issues, it's very, very hard to break through their state of mind, their fogginess, their loop of thoughts. you might be able to get them for a moment, but then they slip back into their state. So it's very, very hard to pull them out of that state. But when they see, like in the Ulambanna Sutra, when they see someone who cares so much for them that they take the trouble to offer it on their behalf to something as great as the assembled Sangha, is that kind of thing that enables them to snap out of their mental fogginess, that, and then they can generate joy for themselves. And when they do, then they can receive the merit from the gift. Okay, so that's the causes and condition behind transference for hungry ghosts. So in the sutra, the Buddha says only hungry ghosts can receive dedication or merit. But apparently, it's not just them, because there are other cases where there are spirits, like guardian spirits, like in the woods and all that. They find themselves suddenly having their powers increase, and then they try to figure out what happened, and then they realize that, what happened was someone did something good, and then they rejoice in the person's generosity or good deed, and that's how they increase their own powers. So usually the stories about hungry ghosts who rejoice is that they become more like gods. They take on the appearance of gods. So merit, okay, if you want, so that should give you an idea. Merit is actually a mental state. Yes, Ron?
Oh, for sure. You know what? I'm sitting here a little bit confused. I think I heard you say that only hungry ghosts can receive merit, okay? But what about all these Dharma friends of mine who tell me, oh, my sister is sick, can you transfer your merit to her, so help her, she has cancer, can you transfer, I mean, that seems to throw this out the window, right?
Well, I'm just quoting according to the sutras.
Okay.
For those people, I guess, there are a lot of practices out there that's attributed to Buddhism, but people may not understand what's going on. I received a WhatsApp.
I'm really happy to hear, the truth about this thing, because, I don't want to waste my effort. And also, like, when you have a relative, who's not doing well, they're either depressed or, they're sick or something like that. You do something and say, well, I'll just transfer the merit to them. And, I won't tell them, I did this to my grandchildren, and I've done it for friends that I know who their kids are like, have they have a certain physical affliction, okay, and like they might be, kind of like autistic or something like that, and I wanted to help them out, but I don't want to say it openly to them. Or I transfer merit to your kids,
Okay, so it's not to say, okay, so like I said, there are different layers to transference of merit. It is a practice. Okay, transference of merit is a practice, but the way some people are using it seems to suggest that they may not understand the practice. So at one layer, okay, I'm going to mute you again, Ron. So at one layer, in the sutras, according to the Buddha, the transference of merit, who can really receive the transference of merit are hungry ghosts. And it is explained how. It is not that they get the offerings directly, like Mengshan, it's not they get the food directly. No, the food is offered to the Buddha and the triple jewel, including the Buddha. So the food is offered to the triple jewel on the behalf of the hungry ghost. And if the hungry ghosts rejoice, that's how they get the blessing. So people who are unclear of the concept, okay, they think, and this comes from Taoism, they think that, oh, the ghosts have eaten the food, so we should not eat the food after that because the ghosts have touched the food. That's a Taoist practice, Taoist understanding. There is truth to that though, okay, just to complicate matters a bit. Shufu say there are spirits who occupy ancestral altars or plaques, and there's a form of spirits, they consume food by contact. They smell or they touch the food, and that's how they can consume the essence of the food. Gods in heaven consume food by consciousness. Humans consume food through like direct physical, we have to digest the food. But there's a class of spirits that don't have to eat the food physically. They just touch or they smell the food and they can absorb the food's essence. So there is some truth there, but the transference of merit, like in Munshan and all that, it is not that the food goes directly to the hungry ghost, although symbolically in a practice it may be symbolically used that way, but the mechanism of how it works is that it's offered to the triple jewel. That's why you put it in front of the altar. Okay, whereas the hungry ghost, they put it on the roadside. But in Buddhist, that's why you put it in front of the Buddha or Guanyin, depending on who is on your altar, and then you transfer the merit to the hungry ghost. Okay, it's not you put on the altar for the hungry ghost come and eat next to the Buddha. It doesn't work that way at all. Hungry ghosts can never receive offerings that are directly given to them. There's more than enough stories to fill a book from the Tripitaka on this. Okay, so that's what the sutras say. The sutras never say that living like humans can be the recipient of merit. Never. Unless there's you all can find a sutra that says that. Yes, Sui Ling?
Yeah, this Dharma Master, I just want the paragraph of the Earth Sutra. Man, woman who has not cultivated good causes during life and who has committed many offenses, has close or distant relatives who do deeds productive of blessings and various holy deeds for his sake. After death, he will receive 1/7 of the benefit, and 6 parts will accrue to him. So that means it says that it's for men and women who has done a lot of, who has committed many offenses, and who has not cultivated good causes during life.
Yes. So there's, in other words, you get reborn as a hungry ghost, or in that realm. In other words, or as a wandering ghost, because hungry ghosts don't occupy their own realm. They wander about. Yeah. Okay. So in the same sutra where the person asked the Buddha about who can receive offerings, the person also asked the Buddha, I said, what if you don't have a relative who's been reborn as a hungry ghost? Okay, because a lot of people will be thinking, because the Buddha said everyone should make offerings on behalf of their dead relatives. So the next question will be, what if I don't have a relative who's been reborn a hungry ghost? And that question was precisely asked of the Buddha. And the Buddha said, impossible. The Buddha said it is impossible that if you go back 7 generations past of your life, 7 generations past, usually, as I understand it, usually means your 7 past lives. It means your parents, your grandparents, your cousins, your brothers, sisters from your 7 past lives. But it could also mean 7 generations past, like grandfather, great-grandfather, doesn't matter. Relatives are relatives. Buddha said it is impossible that among your relatives, you will not have someone who has been reborn as a hungry ghost. So therefore, everyone should make offerings on behalf of departed relatives. So there's bound to be someone who's going to benefit from your offering. Okay, so that's the question given to the Buddha. Okay, so that's one way of looking at transference or dedication of merit. And I've shared other stories before, like the Thai woman who went to hell, and then the husband built kutis for her, and she came back, but on the condition that she take care of her husband. You all remember the story? If not, go back to YouTube. I don't remember which class. There's only 136 for you to go through, and you will come across that story. Okay. So yes, we have a lot of evidence there. I've never come across, but then again, what do I know? I've never come across where like an animal or another human being can receive your transference of merit. Never. Okay. So that is hungry ghost. Okay. But at the same time, like Ron said, but it is a practice. We do transfer merit, say at the end of a lecture, we do transfer merit. Okay. All right. What is that transference of merit? Okay, that transference of merit, you look at it as to your intention or why you do something. That's how you understand transference of merit. Because that's how Bodhisattvas actually see transference of merit. It is the reason you do something. Okay? All right, I'll tell you a story. And I've mentioned this story before. Okay. This story is about a goddess in the heaven of the 33, the Triumtrimsha heaven. Okay. Apparently, if you're reborn in the heaven of the 33, you have nothing better to do every day than in the morning go and pick flowers and make necklaces out of the flowers. So this goddess was halfway climbing a tree, picking flowers, when she suddenly died. And when she died, she got reborn as a human. And when she got reborn as a human, she remembered her past life. She remembered that her past life was in the heavens, and now she's born as a human and how lousy human life is compared to the heavens. So because she remembered her human life, her past heaven life, she lived 100 years, and every single day she tried to do good. She always tried to create merit. I think she helped build a monastery for the Buddha and the monks, or maybe not during the Buddha's time, but definitely from the monks, she made merit, all with the intention of being reborn in the heaven. And then she was married off, and then she had 4 sons, and then she died as a human being 100 years later. And then because of all her meritorious work, she was reborn right back where she died. And she went to the husband, who was another god. Excuse me. Then the husband said, "Oh, my love, where have you gone? I haven't seen you all morning." And she said, "Oh, I died and I was reborn in a human realm, and now I'm back here." He said, "Oh?" He said, "How long was your lifespan in a human realm?" He said, "Oh, 100 years. Oh, then when the husband heard this, the husband became really, how you say, it brought some sense into the husband, because the husband said humans have such a short lifespan. 100 years for us, we think is very long. Right now, we celebrate people who live to 100 years because hardly anyone lives to even 90s, not to mention 100 years. So the husband said, humans, their lifespan is so short, but yet they live their lives totally not caring about their future. He said humans live as if they were immortal. And then he realized that even themselves as gods, they are doing the same thing. Yeah, they say we spend it like we are sleeping. How can we be freed from suffering? So that was his take. Yeah. So the poor wife, 100 years down on earth, suffering, toiling away, making merit, while to the husband, didn't even miss the wife. They say, "Oh, where my wife gone? Maybe she'll turn up again." 100 years on earth. Okay, what does that sound like? Okay, if you practice the Pure Land, you do something good, say transfer to the Pure Land or dedicate to the Pure Land, what does that mean? right? So this other level of transference or understanding transference is just a way of looking at why you're doing it. So in the Pure Land, it says everything that you do, everything wholesome, everything meritorious, you transfer to the Pure Land. In other words, I'm doing this, giving food to the monks because I want to go to the Pure Land. I'm transferring it to my lotus flower in the Pure Land. I'm donating money to build this temple because I want to be reborn in the Pure Land. That's it. That's what it means. That's what it means when you transfer. Okay, so transference is, in other words, is your intention. Now, when you come to the monastery, all right, transference seems like an afterthought. Why? Transference is done at the end. But if you think of it properly, if you're really sincere, transference should be done in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. You should be very clear of your intention, why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, for example, okay, hold on to that thought, Ron. If you're going to say something, just give me a minute. Imagine it's your birthday, okay, and someone sees you and says, "Oh, it's your birthday." Then they look around and then they see a bottle, a soft drink on the table. They pick it up and they give it to you. Hey, happy birthday! Here, this is for you. How does it make you feel? It's like, okay, this person's not really sincere. I'm going to mute you, Ron, first. As compared to if a person is really sincere, like how it says in the Earth Star Sutra, that passage that Feeling was reading, if a person is sincere and knows that it's your birthday, they will go out of their way. They'll say, oh, okay, this person likes this, but this thing you can only find it at this place. Okay, I'll make an effort. I'll go to this place, but I'll go early in case they don't have it. Then I can go somewhere else to look for it. You know who does things like that? Usually people who are in love. When you're in love with someone, you want to impress someone, that's what people do. But they're very sincere, which is what I'm talking about, sincerity, right? And then that person gives the gift to you and you realize, oh, this person has gone to all the trouble to give me the gift. How does it make you feel? That's why in the Earth Star Sutra, it talks about sincerity, and when it talks about you prepare offerings, you have to be very careful. Things that drop on the floor, you don't offer it, because if someone picks up an apple from the ground and offers it to you, would you want it? No, because that person's being careless. The person's not caring about you. The person doesn't really care about you. Yeah. All right. So if you understand what sincerity means and the role in making transference or dedication, especially for yourself, because transference is more for you, okay, then you will realize that although in the Buddha hall or in ceremonies, transference are done towards the end, after you do something, then you do transference, but in actual fact, if you are sincere, you are very clear on your intention of why you're doing something or your transference before you do it. Then during, you're also very clear. Then after, if you do all that well, then you realize, oh, the ceremony at the end, the transference, it's just a ceremony. You don't really need the ceremony because you have been sincere in who or why or what you've been doing all this time. Okay, so that's the reason behind why when you do precepts for the deceased, it's very different. You don't sign up for precepts for the deceased and then you turn up, and after the ceremony is over, then you start thinking, oh, who do I want to have done it for? That's such a grammatically weird sentence, right? Then, oh, my grandmother died. Okay, yeah, I should have done it. I just did it and I'm going to dedicate it to my grandmother. But the proper way to do precepts for the deceased is when you hear about it, you start thinking, oh, yeah, I can remember my grandma passed away and no one has ever done it for her before. I want to do it for her. So you register with your grandmother in mind. You book your flight with your grandmother in mind. You make your travel plans with your grandmother in mind. Everything you do is because of your grandmother. Then you stand in a Buddha hall with your grandmother in mind. And after that, do you have to transfer the merit to your grandmother anymore? No, you've been doing it the whole time, right? Okay, so that's transference. Transference is why you're doing something. So if you look at it, understand it from that point of view, then you realize whenever you transfer merit to all living beings, then you have to back it up in the way you treat living beings that you meet. So if you transfer merit to a sick person, okay, what are you doing to the sick person? If there's an opportunity to take care of the sick person, do you take it? If you can do something good on behalf of that sick person, do you do it? If not, then your transference is just empty. So for a lot of people, transference is a training. They can't do anything with the transference, but it's a training. It's a training for the mind. It's a training for the mind so that when they get to a level where they have to decide for themselves whether they want to walk the path of the Arhat, which is get into nirvana and get attached to emptiness, or to use their skills to come back to samsara and help living beings like a bodhisattva. That's where your transference pays off, because your transference to living beings and to people around you that you care for, all those seeds in your consciousness, in your karmic consciousness, will come back to remind you and make it very natural for you to walk the bodhisattva path. So all the transference that we're doing right now, at the very least, is planting those seeds. So it's not about whether it helps people or not. No, you are in training. Okay, you're in training to become a bodhisattva. Okay, and I actually have some slides from transference is one of those things I've been looking at. Let me end my old slideshow. Let me do this. No, I just showed you all the same slideshow. How am I doing? Hold on. So basically, transference is you have to be clear why you're doing something. Why are you reading the sutras? Why are you studying? Why are you here listening to the lecture? If you know why, then you know transference. Okay, so ignore that first slide. So some of my notes here is about, it says the practice of mentally or ritually directing the merit produced from a virtuous deed or deeds to a particular aim. Merit may be dedicated to the benefit of all sentient beings or to the benefit of a specific person or persons, such as a family member, but the term is used specially to refer to the dedication of the merit accumulated by a bodhisattva to the greater goal of achieving Buddhahood so that one may be able to liberate all beings from suffering. Merit may also be dedicated toward the goal of a rebirth in a specific realm. In this case, they put like the Pure Land or the heavens, like that story I told you, that lady, in the next lifetime. The dedication of merit is a standard element of Mahayana ritual or ceremonies and meditative practices, and is often praised as a means of protecting virtuous faculties from being destroyed by unwholesome states of mind. So why is it a Mahayana practice? Is because it keeps you in touch with people who need help. That's why you transfer merit. Whether you can help them now or not, don't worry about it. Okay? But the fact that you can learn how to transfer merit and learn the right way. Okay, first you learn who benefits and who doesn't benefit. Secondly, you learn that transference is actually why you're doing something. Why am I doing this? For who? Can I benefit someone? Okay, so bodhisattvas, okay, I actually have some text on this. Bodhisattvas, this is from the 10 dedications or the 10 transferences from chapter 25, the Avatamsaka Sutra. If you read this, it makes it very, very clear. I'll just read some of the slides, although it's not prepared for this. It says, Sons of the Buddha, what then is meant by the Bodhisattva's dedication in which he saves all beings in the absence of... Okay, I'll just stop there. We don't have to confuse ourselves in the absence of any conception of a being. It says, when this Bodhisattva practices Dana Paramita, purifies Sila Paramita, etc., these are known as the let me see how many, usually 6 or 10 paramitas in this sutra. It is the 10 paramitas, the 10 good wholesome deeds. Okay, let's just leave it as that, including great loving kindness. great compassion, great sympathetic joy. He says, he reflects in this way. Okay. So when we practice, okay, the Bodhisattva practices, but the Bodhisattva thinks in this way. It says, may these roots of goodness be everywhere able to benefit all beings, enabling them all to attain purity, to achieve the ultimate and to remain forever apart from the measureless sufferings and torments of the hells, the hungry ghosts, the animals, King Yama, and other such circumstances. Then he says, when the Bodhisattva Mahasattva plants roots of goodness, that means when you do something good, like listening to the sutras or changing your bad habits, he dedicates his own roots of goodness in these ways. May I become a shelter for all beings to enable them to avoid all kinds of suffering circumstances. May I become a protector of all beings, etc., etc. May I become a refuge for all beings. And it says, may I become a path for all beings to enable them to reach all knowledge or enlightenment. May I become a source of peace for all beings to enable them to find a place of ultimate peace and security. May I become a light for all beings to enable them to acquire the light of wisdom and extinguish the darkness of delusion. Okay, let's just pick this. Okay, a light for all beings. So when the Bodhisattva studies the sutra, because light represents wisdom, which you can get from the sutras. So you can say that when a Bodhisattva studies to increase his wisdom, it's not because he wants to become foremost in wisdom, or he wants fame or fortune, or he just wants knowledge. No, he does it so that he can help other living beings to acquire the light of wisdom as well, and to dispel their ignorance or the darkness of delusion. How can you do that? You can only do that if you study the sutras, right? Only if you possess wisdom yourself. So when the Bodhisattva studies sutras and he dedicates or transfers to all living beings, it means that the reason he's studying the sutras is so that when he comes across a living being that he can help, hopefully he has some wisdom either from the sutras or as a result of practice, he uncovers his own wisdom, and he can use that wisdom or that knowledge to help that living being, to also end the living being's ignorance. Okay, it's an active thing. It's not a passive thing. It's not, at the end of this, I transfer to all living beings. That's it. No. If you want your transference to actually work, it has to make a difference in how you treat that person, the object of your transference. Or if you are bold enough to say, I want to save all living beings, then every single living being that you meet after that should reflect your transference. Okay, but if you cannot, it's okay because you're not a bodhisattva. Maybe you are, but for those who are not, then it is training. Okay, it is a training to get us into the mindset of a bodhisattva. So when others ask you to transfer merit to people who are sick, that it's transference of merit is very hard because sometimes people who don't understand, they go to a temple, this is how it's presented to them. And how you say, it becomes, the practice becomes like that, and people just accept without question or understanding, or they may not have it been explained to them before, or I don't know. But like even today, I got a WhatsApp message saying, "Oh, please transfer merit to these people." And yeah, so it's hard to educate people. Don't go and fight with them. Don't go and, if they ask you questions, you can explain. There will be a time for them to learn. But for ourselves, at least we know, okay, when we talk about transference from now on, it's about why am I doing this? So if I say I transfer to all living beings, can I really do it? Okay, if not, it's still a good thought to develop. But to be clear, I'm learning this so that I can develop myself to help living beings. Think of it in that way. And when it comes to transference to the other realm, as far as the sutras go, okay, as far as all the texts that I read go, only hungry ghosts, according to the Buddha, only hungry ghosts. But there are cases where, like I said, local spirits also become the recipient of good deeds done on their behalf. Okay. So coming back to the questions, what is the portion if transfer merit to alive people? None. It depends on how you actually treat them, how you bring them onto the path of enlightenment. If you can bring them all the way, then it's 100%. If you cannot, then 0. But there's also a psychological aspect, like I say, the training part, where if you can bring yourself to transfer merit to a single person, it means that your heart softens to that person. So if say you can find the strength to transfer merit even to someone you really don't like, okay, then there's something magical that happens inside yourself, in your mind, that slowly, as you, the next time you meet this person, the next time you meet this person, the way you treat this person is different from before. If you had been hostile before, you're less hostile. If you want more patience, you suddenly have more patience because you are able to think good thoughts towards this person. And because you transform yourself, then your relationship with this person will also get transformed. So there's that part as well, which is why transference is a very good practice. Okay, provided you know how to do it right. If you think it's magic, you just utter the words and it happens, and you don't bother to change yourself, then that if that's how you treat it, then that's what how much you get is based on that. Then there's another component of transference, okay, which comes back to why you do something, which can benefit someone. And I'll use my father as an example. I don't know if it works, okay. My father knew that I wanted to leave home partly because of him. Not that because he made my life so difficult, but because I wanted to repay his kindness. Okay. In the beginning, he wasn't happy, like most people. He wasn't happy, although my mom was very happy, but my father wasn't. He found it hard to accept. But later on, he was okay. Yeah, I think he was a bit proud of it, hopefully. I like to think so. So anyway, I would like to think, okay, also because I told him, I said that if I'm successful in living home, I didn't give him the full details, but Shufu says if you get enlightened, you leave home, you get enlightened, then something like your parents from 7 generations past will be reborn in the heavens at the very least, something like that. There's benefits to be accrued to them. So I fed him that story as well to make him happy. So I would like to think that if he had remembered that when he died, he would have, a wholesome state of mind, and then you could say that was my transference to him. So I leave home because of my parents, which is a transference in itself. And although when they're alive, they don't get any gain, but at the same time, they also kind of do, I think. Yeah. But that is more, if you have those kind of circumstances, not leaving home, but, you do something on someone else. Like for some people, they recite Tapecho over water for someone who's sick, and then they bring the water. And if the recipient knows that, oh, so much care has been done for me, it does have some wholesome effects as well. Okay. So Isabella, when you ask, can you transfer merit but one suffers on behalf of the living person? Karma is usually not transferable, not that I know of. But in the case of bodhisattvas, apparently, they can. I think it's something like this. It's something like if someone owes someone else money and you have the means to pay it off. So with your blessings, you are able to kind of like undertake the suffering, or to a more, how you say, you like sometimes they're hostage situations. And then I know recently someone offered himself up. He said, if you release the hostages, you can take me instead. Something like that. There is an active component. Yeah. So it's not done through transference of merit, but it's done as a result of transfer of merit. So if you explain transfer of merit to people like that, who put themselves in those situations, they say, yeah, oh, you call it transference of merit? Oh, I just call it doing the right thing. They'll probably say that, So, yeah, so it kind of works in that way. And then there's another sutra that talks about how you can transfer merit, but you cannot transfer unwholesome things. Yeah, but I don't have that reference. I remember reading it before. There was a question asked, you can transfer merit, but can you transfer unwholesome things, like you wish someone bad things instead? The answer was no. Yeah, because the heart doesn't work that way, something like that. Okay, I think I've covered what I wanted to cover for transference of merit. If you all have more questions, because time is as usual gone way beyond time, you all can bring it up next week. Okay, don't take what I say to be correct. Just take it as another perspective for you to build your own. Okay, and if you come across any sutras that says yes or otherwise, yeah, please share. Okay, all right, so let's do transference of merit. Let me end this slide. Okay, anyone, anything before we do transference? So like I said, next time when you come, okay, don't be like some people at the end do dedication of merit as a formality without really understanding. You could say, develop yourselves in such a way that you are clear about your intention or your transference from the beginning. Okay? Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing in respect to the Rebel Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay. I just thought of another aspect to Isabella's question. That I know, like Shufu's stories about when he was in China, something to the effect of, but this is not like transference merit, but something to the effect of you can save people, say from spirits, but then the spirits may decide to come after you instead, and because they're not satisfied, you know, and they want you to take that place of something like that, you know. Yeah, so that's that kind of situation as well. Okay, all right, see you all next week. Amitafor.
Thank you, Dom.